Hello there, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Nina Williams In Depth. Today I want to talk about Nina's right backhand body blow. That is down back 2. Alright. Okay, I've got lots of settings to change here. Guess it kind of reveals a little bit about how I may practice different things. But it's always important to have your settings correct before you lab anything. Make sure that you're displaying all the information you need, and I'd suggest removing clutter so that you don't have excessive things on the screen. You don't want to have things obscuring what you're seeing and what you're focusing on compared to what you do in a real match. Okay, right backhand body blow. Not to be mistaken with her left backhand body blow. It is down back 2, or number 53 there. So down back 2, we can see it's got some properties here. You can see it's got a tailspin and a homing sign, so that's a good start, isn't it? The move is done by pressing the diagonal of down back and 2, triangle, whatever you want to call it, at the same time, which is her right punch button. And you can see it's got the white outline. I'm sorry, we're actually going to turn opponent frame data off so we can see the opponent better. So you can see it's got this sort of white, weird effect, meaning that it is a designated homing move in this game. You can't do it from crouching, so you can't hold down back and then press it won't come out. You've got to press it at roughly the same time. There's a little bit of leeway, of course, but you can do it while walking back, and you can press down back 2, or walk forward, of course, but yeah. We can see it's got 24 frames startup, but it says 24 to 25, which means it's got 2 active frames, okay? So 2 active frames plus 18 knockdown, or I guess it means it's plus 19 knockdown if it's on the second active frame. If we set the AI to block it, we can see it's -5, so it's either -5 or -4 depending on the active frame. This is another move you're not really going to see hit on the second active frame often, but I guess it'll happen sometimes. It does 20 damage on normal hit, so 20 damage and a knockdown. And you see they sort of spin away or flip away to the side a little bit, so they spin to the left. It also has special properties on counter hit, and this is something that's changed recently as of Season 3, or a patch in Season 3. Now it gives a normal counter hit launcher. It used to go straight into a tailspin on counter hit. And as well as it being a homing move, meaning they cannot step it left or right at all, it is also a tailspin, meaning if you were to do something to launch the opponent while they're airborne, it will cause a tailspin effect, which is very useful. It's nice when a character gets a single hit tailspin, but of course being at 24 frame, it can be a little bit difficult to use sometimes, and that's where we will go into things a little bit later. So first off, let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about range first. So distance, the move itself, you can see it's slow and it's got long range. So we're looking at about range 3.1. Yeah, 3.1. Let's get, just under 3.1 then. Yeah, so that's about the maximum. So I wouldn't really be trying to do it. I wouldn't even be trying to do it at range 3, to be honest. I'd be trying to do it more at like range 2.6. But there is an issue with this move that I need to go into. I'm going to use Leo for this example, because Leo seems to be quite easy to demonstrate this with, but there is a bit of a bug with the move when it comes to range. And I think it's important that people know this. I'm using Leo because another Nina player called Turnkey Chief did a video demonstrating this, and I'm just going to replicate the exact situation that he showed in the video. So essentially we do this, a little bit of a delay there to confirm the down forward 1 hit. And if I time my backdash right, it's a bit hard to time, to be honest, but it is. Hold on, you do a weird backdash timing. Come on, come on. If you time it right, it'll make it whiff, although you're clearly not out of range of the move. I'm not even close there, sorry guys. I was doing it so well before. tested this before, I was all ready for it. I thought maybe I can do it on the first go in the video. There we go. So that shouldn't whiff. If we look at the scenario, so I get hit by a down forward 1, I'm at range 1.5, I do a backdash, I'm 2.3, and as we saw before, it should hit up to about range 3 or just before 3.1. So it's a bit of an inconsistency in the move. If you backdash at the right time, it doesn't seem to travel as far. Nina sort of freezes in space. I don't know what happens, but it makes the move randomly whiff. I want to try one more time because I stuffed it up so much. Oh, sorry, we need to get hit. Okay, let's just do it fast. Nah, you do it a bit slower. Oh, I nearly had it. Whatever, anyway. You saw me do it once, and that's all we need to see. You've seen that it's a thing, and it's an unfortunate inconsistency, and if you practice it, some people can probably get it quite consistent for an inconsistency. It's just the backdash timing. Okay, so of course this move is homing, meaning if I go guard all and then sidestep left, we're going to go that, we'll catch them, that will catch them. This move will literally turn around to chase a character if it needs to, so it fully homes. You cannot step this move, you cannot walk it. But let's go on to some more interesting properties. So if I think this is a good way to do it. If I go like this, into here, Nina's +6, right? So I'm +6 or +7, depending on the active frames. Right? So 7 into 24 frame, you can clearly tell that there's a big gap there, right? If I do a 10 frame, that's going to come out well and truly before the move hits. And you can see this right here. Right? So this is where I'm just going to demonstrate the move has some high evasion. If you do a higher hitting high move, it can go through it, or it can evade it. So obviously you need to be careful with the move. It's not going to go under every single high. It does not high crush, but you can use it to go over some high hitting highs. Such as Nina's 2-jab. So that's something good to keep in mind, the properties of the move. Next, let's talk about it hitting. So as I said before, they sort of spin to the side, and this gives an interesting feature because it means that they can't do spring attacks because they're off axis. So if I go like this, they can't do a spring attack. And that means it can give pretty good Oki. Because they're off axis, oh, that was a bit too slow. You have good options, good follow-ups that you can do, and they have less options to counter it. They can still do things like tech roll, because it is just a normal knockdown, but depending on the move that you use, and I'm showing a charged forward 1+2 here, there's not much they can do about it. And because they're off axis too, you'll also notice that'll whiff. So there are some very good, it's got very good Oki, very good mix-up potential on hit, which is great, so it's a good knockdown. Okay, the next thing, of course, is counter hit. So I showed you before that on counter hit it gives a juggle, well, it gives a stun, and depending on what you do, depending on how fast, you can get some pretty big combos. But you've got to be kind of on point if you want to get the more optimal things. But anyway, that's still, oh, yikes. It's a lot more damage than it used to do because it doesn't go straight into the tailspin. So you can go into a tailspin after it now and get so much damage. So it's a good counter hit, mid-homing advancing tool with a bug. Alright, so have we spoken about everything? We've talked about it on hit, we've talked about it on block, we've talked about its knockdown, we've talked about its counter hit properties, we've obviously talked about its range and the bug, and we've also talked about its tracking. I think those are all the properties we need to talk about for now, so let's go on to the next section. Alright, down back 2. How do we apply this move? So At first glance of the move, the first thing I think, I see long range homing, and I think this is designed to catch people's movement patterns. This is designed to catch people who are moving, and maybe people who are attacking, overcommitting to things, such as me, when I sidestep into a button without thinking about the scenario. This is a good move to catch them. The downside here is the fact that it's so slow, and that it's got that range bug. So I think it's perfect for catching people moving, but you've got to be very careful at the range. You've got to be very careful with their backdash timing, so you don't accidentally get evaded. At the same time, as you saw before, it is still vulnerable to some fast highs and other fast tools because of its speed. So if you use it, if you overcommit, if you overuse this move, you can get counter hit launch a lot. But that's my initial interpretation of the move. Now also, because it's a homing move, it's made to lock people down, and being only -5 on block and giving you knockdown Oki on hit and launching on counter hit, it's pretty good really. At -5 you're still in a scenario where you can try and do some sort of evasive maneuvers and try and make a defensive read on the opponent and get information about how they may retaliate. So you can also use this tool to download your opponent. You can also use it in masking mix-ups, I suppose. I guess you could consider it a mix-up tool, because it knocks down and gives you Oki. It's quite a good reward, but once again it's kind of slow. But if you look at the startup animation of this, because most people who are going to be trying to react to this, at 24 frames it is possible. People who are trying to react to this, they're reacting to that startup animation, which looks quite similar to her down 2. So if you're pestering a person with down 2 a lot, if you're pestering them with down 2 quite a bit, and then you suddenly throw out a down back 2, there's a good chance that they're going to see that animation and they're going to try and duck. And you can knock down and you can get your Oki, do whatever you want really. So you can use it to mask, to mask the animation of down 2 or to mix up with a down 2. And a very common situation for this was after Ray hands, where the down 2 is unparryable and the down back 2 is a similar animation. Although with pushback changes this has become a little less relevant because you've now got options that are more consistent and more rewarding. But it's still there, it's still valid. Okay, what about combos? So we can also use this move in combos, which is pretty easy, and the trick to this is you can do it off a sidestep 1 back. You don't even have to cancel, okay? So you do sidestep 1 back, down back, +2. No cancel required. And so a common combo you'd see is the old Jap combo, so down forward 3-2, sidestep 1 back, and then instead of doing the up forward 4 or the while standing 1, you do a down back 2. So for example, oh yikes, for example, and then you could do like that. Or you can go to the right and you can set this up for dropping your combo. Oh, sorry, do we need to do another sidestep there? I don't really use this combo route, I must admit. Yeah, so you can do whatever you want there. You can use it. You can use it for combos like that as a tailspin. You could also do it like early in a combo. Think about the damage distribution. Yikes. So it can be a pretty good option, especially if you're close to the wall. And then, okay, so if you're close to the wall, you could do something like, oh my god, like that for good wall carry, or even just something simple like, I swear that works. Maybe you have to sidestep. Yeah, there we go. So you can use it for quite high damage in combos by doing a tailspin early, but obviously you can't do it off every launch because it's quite slow. So you need to choose your launcher appropriately, and often it's going to be ones that have a big stun or bound. Otherwise you need to find a situation where you can do a sidestep 1. So that's also another way you can do it. Or if you're trying to be flashy, something like that. Yeah, so it's definitely got its application in combos, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. I mentioned... Actually, let's continue with combos. Okay, so the other situation that you could use it quite well is, I think if you do up to 7 hits, you can use it post tailspin and get some Oki. So, for example, we go like that. And you see it doesn't really knock them back very far, but if we do more hits, it knocks them back further. Okay, so it's still got pushback, but you can use some mind games here because it gives you a good amount of advantage on hit here. So I'm going to use forward 1+2 as my example again. But let's go, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That there, they tech roll, they can't do anything about it. We'll stick with the 6 hits, okay? So you can see it beats both those options. Just as a quick demonstration, quick recovery. Yes, they can quick recover. I think this beats it. Yeah, so that's the one option that'll beat it there, and then I don't think this does anything. It just wakes them, yeah, wake up backwards, it doesn't do. So you saw it caught wake up backwards just then. If we do stand up, it's going to be the same deal. They just have to stand and block. If we do front roll, they're going to get hit. If we do side rolls... Oh, yikes. So that is the catch, it's a bit slow. So it can be tough to link at times for that reason. So it's going to catch side rolls both directions. Wake up mid kick. Gonna beat. Oops. Wake up low kick. It's gonna beat. Recovery kick, I believe it loses to. Oops. Yeah. And then spring attack, I believe it wins. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a pretty good option for Oki because literally going through every single option there, if they stay grounded, it's still going to hit, of course. They either stand up and guess. If they guess correctly, then they're still at -8, you're at +8. Otherwise, they get hit. And the only ways they can beat it are with a recovery kick or a front get up, which are very low reward, really. So you can see how in that scenario it gives you pretty good Oki. And then if you can do that, of course, we can also do things like down 2. And down 2 has that crazy property there, which we're going to go over on another day. Let's set this back to here. Okay, so that's an example how you can use it for Oki. Let's go back to the normal hit, okay? So a normal hit, it springs them away, and because they're off axis, they can't spring kick, which means you've got similar sort of Oki with probably a better reward than doing it after a tailspin. They can still tech roll, by the way, so me just doing a down for STFU is not smart. Because of that. But forward 1+2 is a good option there. Also run up down 2. You have good Oki, and you can also once again use this to read the opponent, get an idea what they're going to do. Because let's say they think they can spring attack out of this, and they can't. Oh, come on. Or let's say they do a recovery kick. It's very easy to bait that whiff into the level of, as long as you dash and do a move or step or do whatever, like forward 1+2, as I said, that'll make it whiff. Forward 3, if you don't delay it, will beat it for counter hits. You've got lots of options here, and it really does give quite good Oki. You just got to get it to hit. It's not bad to use in mix-ups in that scenario. Like I said, you kind of use it to get information. You're trying to use it to catch their movement. So if you're doing stuff and you know the opponent's going to retaliate either by ducking or backdash, sidestep, or if you see some kind of pattern in their movement, this can be a good move to throw out. as long as they're not too button happy. If they're using lots of quick counter hit tools, like I said, that's where this is risky. So choose wisely with your matchups. Okay, let's go to the wall. I don't think there's a great deal I can talk about with the wall, but go to Howard Estate. That way I can talk about how it can be used in Howard Estate or with wall breaks and floor breaks. So you may all remember on a recent video of mine I talked about back 1+2 and essentially how the recovery is so poor you can't get down back 2 to work. That's okay. But if you use another break, you can do a down back 2 after it. And this is often a great option because you're not adding extra hits. So for example, if you want to do as few hits as possible, trying to get like a wall carry afterwards. Yeah, anyway, so that's what you could do. And then you could do like a... Yeah, and that's pretty easy wall carry because you're not using too many hits in the juggle early on. While if you were to, for example, if you were to do something like... You can still get there, but then it's going to be impossible to get to the next wall, or you're not going to have the potential to get as far on other stages as you could by doing this one. So it's a good option to use after a wall break or a balcony break for that reason, that it lets you get the combos. Plus, if you've already expended a lot of hits, like what's a good way to get to the wall here? Let me think. If you've already expended a number of hits, and then you're trying to oh god, sorry everyone, you get to sit through these loading times. It's a good option if you do want to get to the wall afterwards. What am I doing? I know that's not going to hit. But yeah, so after you've done a break, you could do this move, and then it gives you that potential, because you're not adding so many hits, to get to the next wall, or to carry further to get to a wall, depending on the stage you're on. So that's a good use for it there. You can also use it at the wall for your pressure, because on hit, it will cause a wall break, or a wall splat. So that's a pretty good opportunity there. If you get them to get hit by that move, you're going to get a lot of damage at the wall. If we go to the wall, you can get some funny shenanigans with this, and I just want to demonstrate this just for fun. This is not really good application, sorry guys, but I like it. Depending on what they do here, depending on how you interact, you can go through them with it. So let's say we do a get up low kick. I believe this is a good option. No, we need to dash first, sorry. I can't remember. Maybe it's this one. No, it's down foot one. Down foot one. You can do fun things like that. Yep. So it can have pretty fun interactions because it sends Nina, the hitbox sends Nina flying. So you can do some pretty sneaky or weird things with it, with that in mind. So it does have some weird potential at the wall, but as it doesn't hit ground, I wouldn't use it excessively. You can see that you can use it in situations when you think they're going to attack. It does work with that. I thought it did. Yeah. Anyway, so it does have some potential at the wall too, but I would more be using it to try and get that break. Well, to try and get that wall splat. And clearly you don't have great recovery after it to do what you want, but... Still do different combos. Or just a backdash, something like that. God, that's not even connecting. You get the idea anyway. So that's pretty much all I want to go through with this move, I think. So let's continue. So Nina's decided to get back into her battle outfit for the conclusion. So Nina's right hand body blow input is down back 2, is a long reaching mid homing move that counter hit launches, causes a tailspin on an airborne opponent, and knocks down for good Oki on hit. It is 24 to 25 frame startup and deals 20 damage. As it's a homing move, it cannot be stepped, it cannot be walked, but it can be avoided with some evasive properties in some unique situations. It does have a bug in the move, which means that despite it reaching almost 3-point range 3.1, some characters can actually backdash in some situations with good timing to make it whiff at much closer ranges. So you need to be very aware of that bug while it exists. It can be used, because of its tailspin properties, it can be used in combos. It can be used at the end of combos to establish Oki. Because of the knockdown sent into the side, it's pretty good for its own Oki on hit. I think you should be using this move to try and catch people moving or try and get a read on their patterns. But you've got to be very cautious about them using fast counter hit moves due to the speed of this. In saying that, it will go under some highs, some higher hitting highs, or just ones with different hitboxes, but most highs will still hit it, so be cautious of that. As it's a single hit tailspin, it has a lot of potential to be used in wall break combos as well, and it can also be used to set up a lot of different things with juggles and realign yourself afterwards because you're not taking too many hits after. Once again, because of the speed, you've got to set this up properly and make sure you're using it off an appropriate launcher to do so. The other way you can do it, of course, is you can cancel it from a side step 1, and you can do that fast enough so that it will link to cause a tailspin in a combo. I think that's everything I want to talk about with Nina's right backhand body blow, down back 2. I hope you've all enjoyed this video. How do you use this move? Do you like it, or do you find that it's a bit too slow? I know that's a common comment from Nina players, that they feel this move is a bit too slow, and being -5 on block isn't bad, but it's just, there are better options out there a lot of the time, I suppose. Anyway, comment below how you use this move. Do you like it? I want to hear how you use it. Please tell me. Anyway, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all for my next video.
You win.
What's done is done.